Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom. Welcome to day 351 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. Today we are doing another roundup. We're going to do what I call a roundup. I'm going to share this format with you. So it took me a couple days to figure out how and what exactly I wanted to do to finish 2025 strong and head into 2026 in the best possible way. So we are going through each area and aspect of this life framework that I've been sharing since, well, forever. I learned it as a 7-part framework in the early 1980s. It would have been the late 70s or the early 80s. And I think it was the 1980s already, because I was out in Valley, Nebraska in the hospital and watching late night infomercials. And of course, who should appear but the infamous back then, Anthony Robbins. That's back when he was still Anthony. Now he's just Tony, of course, but that's the transformation that he has gone through over 5+ decades of serving people and helping them to lead better, healthier lives. And one of the things I learned a lot about from him was about relationships. Now, I did not take his advice about picking the proper person to be your partner in the first place, but that's a story for another day. So today, the area we're focusing on and doing a roundup on is relationships. Relationships, to me, are one of the top 3 areas of our life that we have to have a handle on, especially our relationship with ourselves, right? We don't always remember that. I know for decades, I didn't pay any attention to what I thought, what I felt, what I believed, what I thought was right or wrong. I just was living my life, probably like about 70 to 90% of the people on the planet right now. And after I understood that it was up to me to create the life I want and to be a better version of myself, that's when I started to get into personal development and personal improvement. So today we're looking at the life framework area, which this is a long way of saying I learned this from Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn a long time ago, over 5 decades ago. And I applied the 7-part framework on and off, not consistently and religiously throughout the different periods of my life. And that's how I got into trouble, because I was not, and by trouble I mean health challenges, other challenges, and I'm just lucky to be here, right? So today and every year, what I like to do is at the end of the year, do a quick assessment of a few things with respect to each of the different life framework areas, because otherwise there's whole areas of our life that we miss and we don't pay attention to. Mine happen to be health, spirit, emotional well-being, mental sanity, all at once, and along with financial and business challenges. And they all came together and overflowed my little red wagon, and I had a sudden cardiac arrest. But fortunately for me, I had started doing some personal development work before that, and so I decided I wasn't done yet. So what are we doing today with respect to this? We're looking at relationships. I think the first thing I'm going to do, since I forgot to yesterday, is share our relationship cards. I'm going to tell you, I've got 4 parts to the relationship roundup. Interesting. I always come up with 3 or 4 things that can really help us to simplify and create what we want in the different areas and aspects of our life. But I've got a relationship deck, and I almost chose not to pull one today. And I'm like, okay, we're talking about relationships. It's a relationship focused deck. Why would I not pull one? It says, I must focus on wanted to manifest wanted. So if you focus on what you want in your life, it will show up and you will create it in your life. If you focus on what you don't want in your life, guess what happens? And I've had lots of practice going both ways with this, especially in the area of relationships. And I'm not going to read the back of the card, because even with a magnifying glass, it is very hard. But that is our card today. I will carry that around with me today. I'm putting it in my notebook that comes with me all day long. So how do we do a roundup? First and foremost, ask yourself, what are the wins I had last year? And I was going to say, what are your 3 wins from last year? I want you to come up with at least 3. You don't have to share them in the comments below, but I would recommend starting a little notebook like this and writing down today, what are my 3 relationship wins or more? I say go for it and write down as many as you can possibly think of. And then the next one, and our focus there is being grateful for what is working in our life so that we create more of that. The second thing that we like to look at when we're doing a roundup is the lessons learned. What are the big things that happened this past year in the area of relationships? And what lesson did I learn from that? Because this is about personally learning and growing and being a better human being. And that comes from forgiving ourselves. So we have to forgive ourselves for getting into the situation that caused us to need a lesson learned. And sometimes the other people involved, sometimes not. Remember, forgiveness is for us. And then capture and make sure that we learned the lesson so that we don't repeat it. I have found in my life, time and time again, I'll have an experience. I learned the lesson, but over time it fades. And all of a sudden, boom, something else happens to remind me of that lesson because I am letting it slip out of my attention. I'm not focusing on keeping my life in the direction that I want it to, so I don't have those lessons anymore. So if you can come up with 3 of those, great. If you only have 1, great. If you don't have any, then you really need to look inside and dig deeper and say, okay, am I creating the life I want, or am I just living by default? And if we're living by default, that could be our biggest lesson learned this year. Third, what is the biggest challenge that you still have right now with respect to relationships? And don't judge it. Don't do anything. Just write it down. And only one of those, because I want it to be the biggest, most important, highest priority thing that if you were to fix that or change that, everything else would fall into place with respect to that relationship. You can pick just one relationship. I would suspect that, though, we tend to be who we are in every relationship that we have. So if it's impacting one and you're noticing it, chances are that even the relationships you don't think that it's impacting, it actually is. And then fourth, what's next? And by what's next, I mean, what are the 3 relationship related, because we're doing our relationship roundup, goals, things, objectives, outcomes, transformations that you want to see for yourself next year. So we got all next year to create this. So there's no pressure thinking, oh my gosh, I want this perfect relationship and I haven't even met this person yet. Just write down that that's what you want. I want a committed relationship by the end of 2026 or whenever you're watching this. So what are we doing? We are thinking about wins, lessons learned, our biggest challenge still, and 3 things that we want next year with respect to relationships. If you have any questions about this, please reach out and ask. Just message me in the comments below or DM me, whatever is appropriate, and I will help you with this, because this is such a powerful way to end the year in each of the different areas and aspects of our life. And guess what it's doing? It's setting us up for what we're going to create next year. All right, have an awesome day, and I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow.